Hello everybody. So today's conversation is going to be about cortisol chaos. Everybody's talking about cortisol. It is nothing new. I'm just checking here to see that things are working. Let's see here. Okay. Um, Having some connection issues. Let's see here. Okay. All right, we're just gonna go with it and see if this is working. Um, it's not showing me on my phone. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully this will all work out. And if you are here watching it live, let me know that. And if you're on the replay, let me know that as well. Just comment live or replay below. So first of all, my name is Tiffany. I'm a board certified licensed nutritionist, and I work with people in all the root causes to try to help them overcome their thyroid problems, their blood sugar issues, their gut issues. We deal with all kinds of things in order to help you feel and function like a normal human being. But a lot of times people who start working with me have done what they feel like is kind of everything, but what hasn't been done, if they really look into it and we dig a little deeper, is that we see that people have not actually uncovered all the issues with their root causes, right? So they maybe dealt with one or two things, but usually you have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to help yourself feel and function like you should and like you deserve to feel. One of the things that is not addressed in any depth with a lot of different things out there on social media, with influencers, with whatever you want to call it, certainly not in our mainstream medical setting, is understanding our cortisol, right? It's actually a little bit dismissed, and we think about how everybody actually deals with cortisol, and it's almost like a buzzword, which is sort of a little bit of the danger zone when it comes to different health things and nutrition rules. People talk about these things, and everybody becomes an expert on them, even people who are, maybe not, educated formally in nutrition or health or whatever. And so I think that gets people a little bit into trouble because they think that's the only thing. And then when we don't understand how that everything is related and everything sort of works together, then we can sort of undo some of the work we've done in other areas. So we really have to put everything together. And that is how I work in my programs. Again, I'm just going to check to see if anything is working properly. Apparently my service isn't the greatest right now. Okay, I think it's working. All right, so let's get into it. So we're going to talk about understanding cortisol. So this is the hormone that keeps you alive, right? All of them do, for to be honest about it. But hormones will keep you. This hormone will keep you alive. This cortisol. However, it can actually burn you out, right? You can feel that burnout. A lot of people are struggling with that. I've worked with people in the past who have actually taken leaves of absences from work. I was one of them due to burnout. And so that's not a diagnosis, of course, but it's something that really affects people and affects their ability to just carry on a normal life. Okay, so cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands, and it is produced in response to stress. And it is something that is essential for survival, right? Absolutely essential for survival. It raises your blood sugar when needed, it raises your blood pressure when needed, and it suppresses inflammation in acute stressful situations. In a healthy rhythm, we will have a higher cortisol peak about 30 minutes to 60 minutes after we wake in the morning, and then it goes down gradually throughout the day to bedtime. And that's when you will come down at night with your energy levels, and you will rest, restore, recover, and wake up in the morning to feel good to do it all again, right? But so many people have a circadian rhythm. This is your circadian rhythm, by the way. So many people have this rhythm that is completely out of whack. It's upended. It's in reverse order. You wake up in the morning and you feel like, oh, am I going to get through the day? I I feel like I slept for a minute and I slept and I was in bed for 10 hours. It's just something that is so common, and we can change that pattern. But you can do that with nutrition and blood sugar management and nutrient support and all that kind of thing. And people don't understand, right? So instead they just, will maybe take some kind of medication for it, which I'm not saying isn't helpful, but I'm just saying that there's other things you can do to help support it so you don't have to go down that road, okay? So basically, one of the solutions that you can do is track your energy and your mood throughout the day and identify where your dysregulated patterns are. Like I said, we're supposed to have a nice surge of cortisol in the morning that keeps us, or gets us awake, gets us ready and thriving for the day, and then it will slowly come down so that about 10 o'clock at night, you are ready to go to bed, you're ready to shut down, and you will rest and recover throughout the day. So it's really important to help get yourself on a regular wake and sleep pattern. Try to have some consistency with that. And if you can get some sunlight exposure in your eyes, about 10 to 20 minutes when you're for in the morning when you're waking up, that is going to be very beneficial to kind of stimulate that cortisol awakening response so you can take back control of it. You might need some nutrient intervention and some support with that, and some other things that can be done depending on your level of fatigue in the morning, but it's absolutely something that can be helpful just to get sunlight in your eyes. So like if you go for a morning walk first thing in the morning, as long as the sun is out, or if you're not out, if you're out before the sun, this doesn't really apply, but if you are when the sun is coming up and the sun is out, you want to make sure you're not putting on sunglasses right away in the morning. You want to get that light in your eyes, and that will help start you out on a better foot in the day with your energy. So also using bedtime routines. So on the other end of the spectrum, you want to use bedtime routines to start winding down. You want to maybe dim your lights. You might want to put your phones away, give yourself a little curfew with that. Do some kind of relaxing ritual, whether it be reading, journaling, maybe you take a bath, a shower, stretching, something like that. That is going to be helpful for just signaling to your body it's time to shut down. And this is when your melatonin production will start to kick in, and that will help you again with shutting down and actually going to sleep. Okay. So that's the first thing. The next thing is that we need to talk about is what happens when this cortisol curve goes wrong. And then we end up in this thing called the fight or flight constantly, and that just never turns off. And then it actually kind of gets into that freeze mode. If you've ever felt like you are so tired mentally, physically, and then you feel like you can't even make a decision, you just somebody in another training I did called it stop and stare, where they just kind of are zoned out and can't really make decisions to move forward with anything. That is when your cortisol curve has gone sideways, right? We need to, again, work on flattening that curve. Or unflattening the curve is what I'm trying to say, because chronic stress will flatten that curve, and you will not have that nice surge in the morning and then coming down at night. So if you have a low cortisol response in the morning, it's gonna be really hard to get up and out of bed. And then if you have a high one at night, a high surge at night, you're gonna be tired and wired. But if you're someone like who was me in the past, where I had such horrible fatigue all day long, but when I started to get some energy back, it came up at 10 o'clock at night. And that was the only time that I could do anything or get anything done or do just normal like household things like clean or do the laundry. Then that kept that going, and then I was out of balance for a different reason, but it felt so good to have energy at some point in the day. I just ran with it. That's where you can get that tired and wired and almost like burning, like running on adrenaline. That's not a healthy way to be either. So common symptoms when your cortisol curve has kind of gone sideways is where you have those afternoon crashes, you have horrible cravings, you're gaining weight, especially around the middle, you have sleep issues, and maybe even deal with some symptoms of PMS that you maybe hadn't before. This can definitely be a sign of your cortisol, being out of whack. So some solutions for this would look like anchoring your meals, having kind of a 3-meal magic situation where you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you need a snack in there, go ahead and have a snack as well, but try to make them healthy and whole food as much as possible. I'm not going to get into all of that composition of the meal quite yet today, but we need to make sure we dose our self with food and nutrition, especially protein forward thinking, right? So prioritizing the protein, getting good fat, getting good fiber. This will help you avoid the blood sugar roller coasters that come from dysregulated eating when you maybe are eating or not eating, fasting for a long time. If you're feeling that fight or flight, if you're feeling like you're in stop and stare, if you're feeling like you are so tired, this is not the time to do extreme dieting, extreme fasting. That is not going to help this. So you need to give your body a reliable source of nutrient density, at least at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you need a snack, go ahead. Another thing you can do to flatten that or unflatten that curve of your cortisol is to reduce your blue light exposure, especially at night. You can put filters on your home screens. You can put it on your phones. You can put on your computer screens as well that filter out the blue light, and that is helpful for stimulation of the proper melatonin production to help you get into that rest mode. And then you could also use, if you like to use supplements, you can also use things like adaptogenic herbs to help you with your cortisol response. And that would look like things like rhodiola, schisandra, ashwagandha. If you need help and suggestions with that, comment herbs below, and I can help you figure out what kind of herbs to access to help support your cortisol rhythm. Okay, I'm just going to check for any information. I can't really see things here because I guess my Wi-Fi is not doing so well. Okay, so let's talk about the next thing, which are the hidden stressors that will hijack this cortisol, this hormone. So when we have stress, it's not just like the emotional stress. When we walk around, you hear people say all the time, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. And it's usually because they're overwhelmed, they're busy, they're juggling too many things. And that is absolutely a factor in how that affects your adrenal glands and your cortisol production. But it is also physical. It can manifest physically. It can be chemical, so that can be actually your brain chemicals that are dysregulated as well, that causes more and more stress to the body. But it can actually be actual chemicals like toxins, molds, heavy metals, things like that. And then it can also be stress from nutritional issues. So if you are, again, nutrient deficient, if you're malnourished, either from overeating highly processed, ultra processed junk foods more often than whole foods, or if you're malnourished because you just don't eat very well because you don't feel well for whatever reason, that can cause a definite biochemical stress on your body, right? So other examples of this could be over-exercising, skipping meals, like I already mentioned. If you have any kind of infection in your gut, whether it be candida, a parasite, or maybe you just have dysbiosis, where you have too much, like you might have all the good things in your gut, but maybe you have too much or too little of things, that can cause a lot of stress in your system. If you are frequently having blood sugar crashes, that is a stress on your body. This will cause your cortisol to be all wacky. You got to get that in control. And then the other thing is emotional trauma, poor boundaries. So whether it be boundaries with yourself, boundaries with your job, boundaries with family, boundaries with friend, you need to set those boundaries. And if you don't, that can also stress your cortisol and your ability to produce it in a healthy pattern. So dealing with all those kinds of things is really important to getting your cortisol pattern back in line. So some solutions that you can do for this is to take a look at your stresses, right? Look at your stress bucket. What's it composed of? Journal about it, use a checklist to identify sources of it. Look at your sleep. Look at your overtraining. Are you dealing with food sensitivities but eating the foods anyway? Those are kinds of the things that you can do to see what is actually at the core of these stressors, and then you can kind of tick them off one at a time and start dealing with them, because dealing with all of them at one time will just be more stress, and more of a cortisol response is required for that. So don't do that, right? Just take one thing off at a time and deal with it, and over time you'll feel so much better with your stress management. Another thing you can do, and I do this a lot in my practice, is I run functional labs. These will look at underlying infections. This will look at nutrient deficiencies. This will look at your cortisol rhythm, with specific hormone testing I do. And we can see, where are your high points and low points? How do we support the body at different times of day to help address those cortisol surges and get them in the right pattern. And the right pattern, like I said, just to recap, is that you have a nice spike in the morning and then it just slowly comes down throughout the day and until you have just a nice shutdown at night where you can rest, restore, recover for your sleep and start waking up feeling refreshed once and for all, because that's a problem for a lot of people. And that was actually one of my biggest problems, one of my biggest frustrations that I had to deal with. And this is the kind of stuff that I did in order to help overcome that. So if anybody is waking up super tired in the morning, no matter how much sleep they've had, I want you to comment sleep. And I can help you kind of, if you put that in there, I can help you look at some things you can do for your morning energy levels, okay? All right, so let's talk about what happens if your cortisol is too high or too low, because sometimes we fluctuate between the two, but I feel like usually when people are just powering through, our cortisol is being produced and pushed out like crazy just to get us to get through the stressors, and then eventually it just sort of crashes, and then you just have these low cortisol symptoms. So high cortisol symptoms are going to look like anxiety, insomnia, cravings, irritability, high blood pressure, probably going to start feeling like you have some belly fat going on and hard to get rid of that belly fat. If you have low cortisol, you're going to have that fatigue. You're going to have low blood pressure, dizziness, poor stress tolerance, probably even some depression. Like I said, you could kind of toggle between the two, it seems like. I know that's definitely what happened with me. But if you have a long-term imbalance of these things, it leads to burnout, what people commonly refer to as burnout. And this causes a downstream hormone disruption, which suppresses your thyroid, which causes your progesterone to be low, and then it makes it look like your estrogen is too high. And so you have all these imbalanced symptoms. So then women are struggling with PMS, like they've never struggled with before. But instead of dealing with their adrenals and helping with their stress management, they're given Prozac, for example, to deal with the PMS. That's just one example of how this kind of goes awry, and there are things we can do before it gets to that level. All right, so for high cortisol, reduce your caffeine, reduce your sugar, maybe looking at things like different amino acids like theanine or serine, or herbs like lemon balm to help calm the system down, doing things like box breathing or alternate nostril breathing. Those really will calm down the nervous system, and it's something that you just have to make the time for, whether it be 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it takes. If you can do those a few times a day to just calm everything down, that is very supportive. Now, on the other hand, if you have low cortisol and you're completely burned out, one of the things that's very, very supportive is just, again, we talked about that the walk with the sun in your eyes. So just some gentle morning movement. You're probably not going to feel like you've been getting out of bed, but if you can get yourself out of bed, just do the one thing. A short walk, just getting that sun in your eyes is going to be super helpful. If you like a rebounder, maybe get out of bed, jump on the rebounder, just jump up and down that for a little bit right away in the morning. That is going to be helpful for supporting the nervous system, but not overly taxing it as well. And then you're going to, for sure, whether you have high or low cortisol, you're going to for sure want to get about 30 to 40 grams of protein within an hour of waking. Really dose yourself with good protein. That's going to supply it with the right nutrients to help your adrenals. It's going to help with the amino acids to help the brain chemicals to help calm everything down. Now, one thing you can do for short term, and you should do it under supervision and not if you have high blood pressure. This is only if you don't have high blood pressure or are being treated for blood pressure. So if you're on blood pressure medications, this is not for you. adding something called licorice root extract. It tastes just like black licorice, but it's not Twizzlers. It's actual licorice root extract. It can be very helpful of giving you that cortisol surge in the morning and help your adrenals do what they need to do. But again, it's something that you would only want to do if someone's helping you with that, and not if you're on blood pressure medications or been told you have high blood pressure, because it can actually raise blood pressure. So that's something you need to be very, very careful of, but it really does work. It really does help people. All right, then the next thing that I would recommend is that we look at some nutritional strategies to help rebuild your adrenal glands. And these are something I talk about all the time. This is in my, stress management adrenal reset part of my total health reset. So this is just a little snippet of what we talked about in there. But your adrenal glands crave nutrients, especially during stressful times. So if you're in a stressful season during work, or if you're going through some stressful family event, or you're planning for a wedding or something like that, you can preempt the support of your adrenal glands by making sure that you're getting proper nutrients. Again, whole foods are, king. Those are the things we need to focus on. But you can really support yourself by making sure you're getting foods with lots of vitamin C, lots of B vitamins, especially B5, B6, B12, and folate. Those are gonna be super supportive of your adrenals. Magnesium as well, and then sodium and potassium. You have to get those electrolytes in there to really help support your body. All right, so if you have chronic stress, these get depleted. B vitamins and vitamin C are the primary sources of fuel for your adrenal glands, which make cortisol, right? So it's really important to do that. So making sure you're getting that protein, fat, and fiber 3 times a day is key, critical. You have to do that. So you can also make sure that you get it's a one-stop shop. If you do some kind of good quality protein with maybe throw in some extra collagen in there, you could use a little bit of coconut water for the electrolytes. You could put sea salt in there, throw in some greens, throw in some berries. You can throw in some powdered magnesium, and you can just have one-stop shop of getting all those nutrients in one drink. So that's a really good recommendation. I have a good recommendation for protein. So if you need that recommendation for a good quality protein powder that actually tastes good and doesn't make you feel sicker, you need to comment protein below and I will get you that information. Also, making sure you're including foods that have a lot of potassium in it, and that's going to be a lot of things, right? That's going to be sweet potatoes, avocado, leafy greens. So potassium is found in a plethora of vegetables. So making sure you're eating your plants is going to be really, really important. Eat your plants, your veggies, your fruit. You're going to do fine there, okay? So that's going to be very helpful for that. So if you need something a little bit more and you want to help support your adrenals on a whole different level, then you can look into supplementation. I do this quite often. I have done it with myself. I do this with other people, again, in my programs. But I tell you, having a good quality B vitamin, a B complex supplement with some vitamin C is going to be very, very beneficial to help sort of recalibrate that cortisol pattern I talked about at the beginning. Sometimes we use those adaptogenic herbs as well. Sometimes I feel like the people I've worked with can't just do the adaptogenic herbs. It maybe helps for more maintenance type of things, or if people are sort of entering a period of stress in their life and they kind of see it happening, they can start looking at that type of thing, those adaptogens, and it is helpful. But it's not really a one size fits all. So everybody has a little bit different need, and it's something that absolutely will support the adrenals so you can get a normal cortisol response. Okay, so we have to do things nutritionally and really deal with things biochemically, but a lot of the things we can do too is lifestyle wise. But we have to make the effort. We have to schedule it in. We can't just be in this chronic stress, in this fight or flight phase. This is that sympathetic overdrive. Our sympathetic nervous system is on fire. It just goes. We have to get us more into that rest and digest, that parasympathetic state. So that's where the morning grounding, the sunlight in your eyes, The heavy breathing, like the deep breathing from the diaphragm, that will all stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs right back here behind your ears. So if you can stimulate that, even with, I'll use some essential oils. I'll use a combination. It's called parasympathetic, and it's from Vibrant Blue Oils, and I love that. That really is helpful. And then just need to bring some joy back in your life, whether that's laughter, creativity, playing with your pets, if you like dancing, whatever it is. Taking little breaks during your day to actually enjoy things is going to be very beneficial for kind of rescuing that cortisol. If you are under stress right now, and which most people are, but if you're under this acute stress and you feel like there's just no end in sight, this is not the time to do high intensity workouts, boot camp style workouts. This is not the time to start flipping tractor tires and that kind of workout. That is not going to be beneficial for you. You need to think of more restorative movement. So strength, walking, yoga, things like that are going to be more beneficial to you during a high stress period. So making sure that you don't just keep powering through and pushing through, that's going to make this process a little bit more difficult for you to overcome. So maybe during a more stressful time, this is where you lean into, walking, being out in nature, doing some stretches and things like that is going to be a little more supportive of that. All right, I shouldn't say a little more, a lot more supportive of that. All right, so when you need to sort of come up with your own cortisol rescue plan, you need to think about what kind of stress do you have going on? Has it been never ending? Is it feel like there's no end in sight? What are you drawn to do? What do you like to do? What is it actually sustainable for you? You need to put all of those things into play, and you need to pretty much trust your body. Let your goal start to be more about restoring your rhythm. Let it be about creating resilience in your body, and then trust your body to tell you what it is, like what it needs to do to feel and function better. That's the whole goal. You should be thriving. You should not just be surviving, okay? So in my programs, we help to identify your current stress pattern and then look at what we need to get to. So are you tired and wired? Are you crashing midday? Are you tired all day long, which is not uncommon, unfortunately? And then we will work on putting things together to help support the morning cortisol or the evening cortisol or the in-between cortisol or whatever it might be. That is something that needs to be addressed, and that is kind of an individual thing. And then what you need to do is to work on 3 non-negotiables, right? So just work on 3 to begin with. If that seems too much, then just start with 1. Making morning protein your goal, or a 10-minute walk your goal, or shutting your phone down by X many or by X time each night, whatever that looks like for you. Not eating after you eat your dinner, no snacks after dinner. Make 1 or 2 or 3. 3 would be awesome if you could do that. Non-negotiables that you will follow, that will help put your circadian rhythm back in check and help you feel like you again, right? It'll help you calm that cortisol. It will put the chaos, it'll take chaos out of your life and actually help you feeling so much better. And when you build that resilience, because your cortisol is leveled out and in the normal pattern, you are going to heal and get better with whatever ails you so much easier. You'll be less susceptible to being taken down by something that, comes your way. All right. So if that resonates with you, comment yes below. Please let me know if this has been helpful. I like to make sure I'm getting information to people that's helpful. Facebook makes it hard for stuff to be seen. So if you're seeing this and it resonates, if you could share it, comment on it. It helps Facebook know that you're liking this information. That would be very, very helpful and supportive of me. I'd very much appreciate that. So just like let's put it out there and let's get this cortisol chaos back in check. And you can do it sooner than later by just